welcome to episode 14 of the Microsoft Spotlight podcast with me, John Jarvis, and my co-host, Andrew Moran. This episode of the Microsoft Spotlight podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, BitTitan. Visit BitTitan today to find out how you can migrate your data, mailboxes, and many other things to the cloud. Andrew, would you like to introduce our guest today?
I would like to introduce our 14th guest of the podcast, Sophie Dimelow. So, Sophie, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for having me, first of all. So, my name's Sophie Dimelow. I'm 24. I think I'm actually the youngest guest, maybe, for so far.
Youngest so far.
Yeah, very, very honoured. So, I'm originally from Barnsley. You'll probably know that from the accent, but I've lived in Leeds now for 5 years, well, 5 and a bit years. I went to Leeds Beckett University, did 3 years doing advertising and marketing management, and then went straight into a full-time career within IT.
So kind of what got you to that stage in IT? And let me guess, you fell into IT by accident.
Literally, I feel like everyone just, well, women especially, which I know is what we're talking about. I feel like, yeah, I did. I fell into IT. Within advertising and marketing, there was a lot to do with, you know, digital things and graphics and stuff within advertising, but that wasn't really what I was interested in. I'd say I'm creative in a sense, but not enough to be really good at advertising. Let's hope I don't go into advertising later on in my life. But yeah, I fell into it. I went to a career fair at Leeds Beckett University, and there was just a stand there. The woman there was really, really nice, like came up really chatty. And what I liked about it was that she had a backboard of her journey within IT. So straight off, that was just, well, they marketed themselves so well, and it basically showed like her from the very start, which is what I'd be going in to do, right up, and now she was like the IT director of a recruitment company. So fell into it. I went into IT recruitment. I was there for 2 years, and I specialised in infrastructure support on the cloud. So day to day, you know, as I grew as a recruiter and also within IT, I was speaking to really senior people, service desk engineers, heads of IT, things like that, about Microsoft and about the cloud and support. So then I just realised that I really, really enjoyed talking about it, and I got more technical, started doing more research by myself, more qualifications like my Azure fundamentals and things like that, and then moved into this job, what I'm currently in now, which is a Microsoft Cloud consultant.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the things, obviously, when I speak to recruiters, is obviously them understanding the roles that we do, because, you know, you get emails all the time saying, I've got this particular job. Okay, wicked, what is it? A first-time engineer, but I've been in the IT market now like 17 years. I'm kind of like past that stage. So having a recruiter that's obviously gone out and obviously looked at doing the Azure fundamentals, so that's AZ900 and also MS900 as well, and actually understanding the market is obviously key. And obviously for yourself, obviously you use that as a platform to then get into a consultancy role.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what I think now? The training that I've had coming into this role, if I'd have actually gone out and learned everything that I've learned now, I would have been 10 times better as well. So I think it's massively important. It's like, I just think if I'd have known all this before, but yeah, it just made a massive difference. And like you said, you were approaching the right people. You knew exactly what the job roles were. You understood the different technologies and where businesses were at in terms of, you know, projects and what they expected this person to come in to do. So it just made things a lot easier. But again, that was just something that I did because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Like when I speak to people, I want to know everything and I want to know exactly what they're talking about. And so if there was like a technology that I didn't use, I didn't know, I'd either ask them, you know, can you just tell me what that is? You know, I don't really know what it is. And then I'd learn that way. Or then I'd just go after the call and be researching, you know, like Azure or backup or whatever else. And then yeah, that's just how I found out more about it. But I actually enjoyed being really technical and talking to other technical people, which I think was a bit of a surprise when they got me on the phone and then I started talking really technical to them all.
Yeah, sometimes like when you speak to recruiters like that, I think guys like Will Rowe as well, who likes to kind of be on the technical pulse and within the community and stuff. Like you're firstly taken back by a recruiter that can actually understand what you're doing and makes it obviously relatable, and you know you'd probably always keep going back to that person as long as they're still within recruitment, as long as you're looking for a job.
Yeah, I think as well, which I know obviously women in tech is one of the main reasons why I've come on today, but some people actually don't expect me as a woman to know. So I got some people at the first of a call, they'd be quite cold and they'd be like, you know, you're a young recruiter, you don't really know what you're talking about. But then as soon as I'd actually start talking to them technically, they'd be a bit like, oh, Jesus, like she actually knows what she's talking about. And then they'd be warmer to me. Whereas some people even give the
being
time.
devil's advocate, do you think that's because you're female, or do you think that's just because of the job role?
Or even age?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been, obviously they don't see me, do they? So when I'm ringing someone up, I don't know if I've got a younger voice or whatever else. But in my opinion, if someone's looking for a job and they've come out to me or they've, you know, put the CV out there or whatever else, then it's not necessarily because I'm a recruiter, like I'm helping them. Fair enough on the other side with clients and things, that's a little bit harder, which I completely understand. But if you're looking for a job and a recruiter rings you or you sent me a CV, then you know it's a bit. But yeah, it was surprising actually. A couple of times. Oh, you get everything though as a recruiter. You know, you get swore at. You get just it makes you realise when you talk to other people actually. But yeah, some people, and I could tell as soon as I spoke to them on the phone whether they were being frosted because I was a woman or whether I was IT recruitment. It would normally the more which of course I understand as well, like the really technical engineers or the quieter ones.
Yeah, sure.
But maybe that's just because, you know, especially within infrastructure, if I found a woman infrastructure engineer or a woman within infrastructure, it were like a unicorn. Literally, they were none.
Absolute gold dust.
They're like that's still. I bet I can count probably on one hand. So I think because I was a specialist in recruiter in that, because they weren't really familiar with talking to other women within their, you know, sector, some of them weren't really that bothered. But so yeah,
you've gone from recruitment now, and you're now a Microsoft sales consultant at Pure Technology Group.
Yeah. So I've been in this role now for 3 months. Absolutely love it. The training has been intense, but I've learned massive amounts of things. I didn't actually realise how big the Microsoft stack was and how much there was to learn and how it's constantly changing. But I like that. I like a challenge. So yeah, I'm part of the cloud practice. We're only a small practice, but as a whole, we're an IT services and solutions provider. So we've got the cloud services, managed services, and then we've also got like your reseller and your hardware and things. So our job is to speak to customers, speak to clients, and just educate and advise them on the Microsoft stack, so where it currently is. We are all about driving adoption and sort of utilising the Microsoft tools that they've already got. There's a lot. I speak to a lot of customers that, you know, aren't on the right licenses, or their IT providers aren't keeping them up to date with how licenses are changing, and you know, it's constantly changing. So as a team as well, we have regular meetings through Teams, obviously because we're all working from home. Well, we're hybrid, so I sometimes go into the office, sometimes work from home. But we do a lot with trying to create sort of bespoke services for customers. We've created like a productivity roadmap, security roadmap, and that's basically the gist of it. I always go in with like a technical consultant, so a cloud specialist, and then we'll just work with you with any cloud hosting services, any Azure, any backup, and that's basically the gist of it. We can just support you within your cloud services, basically.
I'll say Microsoft licensing is a dark art by itself.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a CSP and everything else.
You need to go to Hogwarts to make learn about licensing. That's it.
Well, yeah, it's unbelievable. Like I'll go on meetings with some people and we'll save them sort of like £8 a license just by looking at the license, like per user. I mean, and you know, they could have hundreds of users, and it's just understanding what you're actually paying for, because it's not at the top of someone's priority. You know, they sort of have a monthly recurring fee, or it'll be within your IT support or whatever, and no one really looks at it. So actually taking a step back now, and I think around teams and around sort of people looking at it more carefully with people working from home and wanting to sort of measure certain things like productivity and things like that, a lot more people are open to speaking about it. So it's been good. It's interesting. Every time I get on a client meeting, I learn something new, and it's massively interesting. I love it, to be honest.
My Microsoft licensing knowledge just comes going to Microsoft 365maps.com and just checking what's on which license, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, did you guys go to the Inspire event? Well,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched. So obviously it's completely different, just over virtually, isn't it? But I watched a few things, and like some of the new things that are coming out, like the Microsoft Viva and the like the Windows 365 and things like that. Yeah. Again, that's constantly changing as well. And they said a few things on there about the licenses and how that's changed. And so it's just constantly going back and forth. But that's what I like. I like to be all over the place, but sort of be organised at the same time with what I'm doing.
It's important, obviously, to find a resource that you can get that information from on a regular basis, and either you're pulling it via RSS feed straight into like some like To Do or something like that. You know, it's important because obviously, you say the Microsoft stack. You know, you don't know until you're actually sitting in it. You basically look how big it is and how far it actually stretches across every single workload. And I think the biggest thing that ever, the biggest change that's had in the market space is Microsoft Teams, because it is literally that blanket that sits over every single M365 product. Yeah,
and I think a lot of interest comes out of actually the Teams training and just having someone to communicate with, like what you said, and just being in the loop, because there's a lot of the clients that I speak to, they just don't know, and it's just they're not knowing. So once you've been shown and once you know, and you know, some people don't want the hand being held the whole way, some people do. So it's just depending on the sort of support that they require. But yeah, I think Teams has been a massive step, hasn't it? Obviously over the last year anyway.
So we're probably going into a bit of the future later, but do you see like a more technical career coming ahead of you, like a delivery consultant or something like that?
Architect?
Yeah.
Do you know what I wish? I honestly wish I'd have. And again, you know, it's something, another topic, but I wish I'd have done IT at school. Like I wish I would have been pushed to do IT at school, because I feel like if I'd have done IT at school, and I was saying, Andrew, previously to you, that I've always been, like, I've worked since I was 14. I've always been a grafter as such. But if doing IT in school as a woman would have been the norm, like, and I'd have done it, and I'll tell my kids and I'll tell anyone that they should be able to do it. I was on like a networking event last week, and it was with a group of women about women in tech and how we can sort of change gender stereotype within schools. And we were just saying, one of the women was saying there's one person within her class in IT still, and I bet when I was at school it was, and I know obviously it wasn't that long ago, but there was literally none. So if I'd have been told and I'd done IT, because now I feel like I'm sort of 10 steps back, and I know obviously I'm still young, so I've got time, but yeah, 100%. Ideally, I'd like to go into, becoming a cloud specialist, or I guess that's where it will go, and then being able to run the cloud practice by the end of it all. But you know, I've got a few years off. But if I'd have known within IT and I'd have known this all in the past, yeah, I 100% would have took the IT route.
So going back to school then, let's rewind a couple of years. Kind of what stopped you from wanting to be to go into IT or look at IT?
Nothing in school. Looking back now, I wish I would have known. But for me, it was always, so I was a bit of a goody two shoes. You know, I was like head girl, like all that sort of stuff. And I hate saying it, but I was quite well sort of in terms of being academic and things. But I was always pushed, like, because I was quite sporty. I was in all the sport teams and things like that, and so I was pushed to go down the sport route, or you know, drama, or just focus on your core subjects. Like, why IT isn't a core subject, I don't know. I don't think that's particularly fair. But I was never told about the careers within IT as a woman. I think when you had IT studies or whatever it were called, information technology, you was creating a game. I remember creating a game that I didn't have a clue what I was doing, like coding and things like that. And you don't really learn about everything else and like the stuff that's, you know, very much open and out there. But until I got into the network and like on LinkedIn, you know, you have there's a massive IT network and we're quite close knit, I'd say. I didn't know anything about it. So I guess it is just that raising awareness. And I never knew. I guess more the careers within IT. All I thought was, oh, this will help me with Word and PowerPoint. Like this will help me go to uni and create a CV. Do you know?
Yeah, I think that's a problem with IT in schools in general, to be fair, and not and that bit there is just like not just women. Like for myself, growing up, I went to school 10 years before you, but only 10 years, like not that much, only 10 years. Like,
let's put it this way: Office 365 has only been around about 10 years, so
yeah. Like only 10 years before you, but still, like even then, I done a BTEC in computing for IT practitioners or something like that. But we done nothing that I do now in the real world whatsoever.
Yeah.
I used Pascal to do coding and Java but then there was no kind of real world jobs in infrastructure or there was no cloud back then, I guess. But show my age, but still, there's nothing in terms. But again, that's because I think Microsoft in general is forever moving. You can't put like a lot of stuff into a curriculum and plan for a curriculum for 3 years, for example, when things change month to month.
Yeah, it is really hard. But I think unless you were someone who, I don't know, maybe their parents were in IT, or you like to go home and do and create, I don't know, make a laptop or whatever. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but probably not. Or go on your games or whatever. Which obviously I wasn't that. I just don't think you'd get associated with it or pushed sort of in that direction.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. I don't know how they'd sort of, unless they did it more, in like the careers. Like careers classes and things like that, or more on the business management side of things, because I did business management, but still never learned anything about IT or like IT leaders or anything like that.
You see more and more companies now going out and doing scholarships and stuff like that, which I think is probably the best way to get into kind of what we do, instead of going to like university.
So for me, university wasn't an option. I always knew that I wanted to get into IT. I always knew that the only way for me to basically get in that way and do all the learning and studying was being an apprentice. So basically me literally going from school into college, I was rubbish at college. I did an IT course. The teacher was never there. I absolutely hated it. So in the end, I was just like, I can't do this. So when I found an apprenticeship, and thankfully, the guy that I ended up working for basically come like my second dad. He was literally like the kick up the arse, making sure that I was basically doing everything that I needed to do. I mean, I was using, there you go, John, here's another one for you, Microsoft Front Page.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, you an internal intranet page with Microsoft Front Page, and that's how I started like looking at website development that way. I was then basically like, actually getting proper like chroming tools and actually putting in wires for actual telephone lines, switching so big big switchboard, and I was like, that's how I got into IT, and that's how
I thought I was the absolute best at creating websites due to Front Page.
Literally, the only thing I remember from IT is that little paperclip man on the side of the.
Oh, Mr. Clippy, can't be Mr. Clippy.
He's coming back on here.
To change and whatever else, and then I used to change my mouse to like, I don't know, Pretty Flower or whatever, like roam that round a bit. But maybe it's something, and again, I know I'm not that old, but maybe it's something that has come with age as well, like an understanding. It's more understanding the success and the amount of opportunity that there is within IT, I think, that's made me interested in it. And the fact that I do like learning about it is just a bonus as well. So
I think it's very much dependent on the school that you go to as well. I mean, obviously schools get Office 365 licensing for free, for obviously education, and it's depending on how the school then leverages that. I think because I've mentioned before many times now, because of COVID, schools had to basically look at ways of delivering sessions to their students. And obviously the school that obviously is local to me, what my daughter goes to, use Microsoft Teams. And I was doing PE lessons through Teams. They were doing all their, French lessons, all that kind of stuff, all through Teams. And I think having that solution there and basically the options available to them, and obviously how they can communicate to a teacher over email, through IM, etc. Obviously, that's very much a starting point and going on. But depending on the person, if they then want to start looking into that with a little more detail, what else can I do?
Yeah, 100%. There's that really good. Well, me and my colleague Earth, we're using that Microsoft the Teams transcript. And with people with different accents, they haven't quite got it yet. So it's really funny to then watch, look at the transcript afterwards. But apparently they're creating a summary for it. So then we'll see how interesting the summary is, and it'll pick up on, like certain dates and certain technologies and stuff. So we've been using that on our meetings just to see if it's actually improving a little bit.
I've been playing with transcripts just to see what words it actually hashes out. Because certain place names in the UK, you think, that's a bit, precarious. No, you'll put it in there. But then you can say something that's not so precarious, and it's there, and it's like, okay, interesting.
Yeah, I know. It takes out swear words as well.
I mean, I think I'm quite lucky. I think I'm quite a neutral accent, I think. So, like, when it comes to transcripts, I've never really seen any bad mistakes for myself.
I'm from
It seems to understand me well, teams.
No one understands the word I say.
Well, I'm from obviously the Birmingham area, but I don't actually have a proper Birmingham accent because I live literally on the borderline of the Black Country, which obviously people outside the Midlands area think is a Brummie accent, and they absolutely hate it. And yeah, my accent is very mixed up. So sometimes I say something and certain words, and it's like, can you just repeat that again? It's like, yeah, okay.
I feel you.
Well, anyway, just watch, Peaky Blinders. You'll understand my accent all day long. Then, happy days.
Yeah, Peaky Blinders, so good.
So, Sophie, you said that you kind of you're very active on LinkedIn. You're active within the community. Kind of what drives you to actually work and do above and beyond what you do within the community?
I think I'm very sort of at one with what I want to portray in my brand and how I want to network. But then I also think it's important to share what I'm doing and to sort of raise awareness for everything, really. So any sort of, women in tech events, or I've done a lot with universities. So I've done talks to students and internal staff about, well, when I was in recruitment, I did stuff on how we can make women more comfortable with applying for roles, and how we can change a job advert and things like that to suit more women, or there's certain words that we can use to draw more women and things like that, because most people now, they are actually promoting that they do want women. I know you can't say that, but they want a more diverse team and the inequality and all that sort of stuff, and I have seen a big thing on it. So I first started off, we created a Corcom, which was a company I was at previously, a women engagement team, and that stemmed from just doing more on LinkedIn anyway, and getting clients coming to us saying we would like to see you doing more for women in tech, and just seeing other people on LinkedIn. So I've always been big on social media anyway, to be honest, and within recruitment it's always drilled in, you need to be getting yourself out there, you need to be showing yourself and showing your brand. So I've just brought that on within this role, and it's nice actually working with the marketing team and doing a lot with campaigns and getting myself out. And what I've noticed is as well, no way is it as big within the IT services side as it is in recruitment, but it's just something what I really enjoy doing, and I think it's massively important to get out there. So it's just, there's nothing really that drives me, as opposed to, I think it works. I think it's good for someone to see your real self, and I've always said I'm always going to be myself. I'm always going to be, honest. I'm still necessarily in a sales position, so I think it's important for people. People buy off people, and I know that's such a saying everyone's, what everyone says, but I think it's important to showcase yourself in the right way. So a combination, really. I love doing it. I enjoy making videos and everything like that. And I guess it's just something different than a cold call, or just trying to reach out another way.
I mean, one of the reasons I reached out to you, because I saw obviously one of the videos that you posted through the company that you work for, because obviously I attend a user group in the Midlands when you could back in the day, obviously run by some of your colleagues, obviously that's how I then basically saw your initial video, and obviously that's why I then reached out, because it's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm going to ask is, do you have anyone that's basically in the community that you basically looked at and went, okay, I want to be a bit like her and follow that kind of career path? Or you just basically like, well, I love this, I'm just going to basically just run with it and see where it goes?
So going back, when I first started talking about the woman at the career fair with the backboard, she's massive on LinkedIn, and obviously I'll give her a shout out. Her name's Georgie Linskin. She's got her own recruitment company now, but she's
Andrew's writing that down.
Yeah. Massive on.
Where's LinkedIn? Let's find her now. Get a message to us then.
Yeah, and yeah, she's amazing. But all like her brand and everything is all around girls in tech, and I mean, seeing how successful she is now, and seeing what she did on LinkedIn, that was probably my first, this actually works, this is what I need to do. But apart from that, no, it was literally just my own thing. And once I saw that it was working for me, so people were actually reaching out to me, like yourself, and the universities, they reached out to me and asked if I'd speak. And like all the events that I've done, I've never, apart from the ones that I've created myself, but that was more, so I did a cloud boss and I did an infra boss, and that was more on the technical side of things. But everyone that I've come on and spoken to about women in tech, and myself and my experiences, have all reached out to me. So I mean, once you see it's working and it's something that you enjoy, I guess that's why you carry it on. But I think maybe it goes back to doing marketing as well at uni. You learn a bit more there. Like I come up with my own campaigns, but you know what I did as well? I read Daniel Disney's LinkedIn Sales Guidebook, and just reading that, if you haven't read it, read it. It's a massive eye opener, and I read a lot of sales books, and what's because people they hate cold calls, but then they want to be traditional and they don't believe in LinkedIn and things like that. Where I think it's massively changing now. It's a bit like Microsoft, isn't it? Massively changing, always on the up.
Change day to day.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the goal then? Obviously, you're getting more involved in the community. Do you think then basically, once obviously user groups are fully reopened, you can do it in person, that's like kind of the next step for you, and then maybe then progressing down, looking at trying to become an MVP? I know it's not as simple as this, I want to be an MVP, I'm going to get it. But obviously you've got to start building that more community activities that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if I could be an influencer, and the guys at Pure, they say, oh, you're going to be an influencer, you're going to be this and that. But if I even had just a little bit of that chance, either to do it on the technical side of things or for women in tech, then I would love to do that. I think for now, my focus is to be more active with schools on the education sector, becoming members of groups, which I've already started doing, that are trying to change that, and then just keep doing what I'm doing, really. I mean, like I said to you earlier, the goal, the end goal, I mean, we're hopefully in I don't know, 20 years or so, would be like the CEO of like a tech organization. One thing that I've never wanted to do, which people are surprised about, is be like own my own business, be an entrepreneur. And I don't know why, I've just never wanted to do that. But on the social side of things, on LinkedIn, if I could do this all the time, and like you said, create my own groups and things like that, then yeah, I'd absolutely love it.
I never wanted to manage people, but I end up doing that.
I don't mind managing people, but a couple of friends of mine have always gone to me, you should start your own company up, you'd be so good at it, blah blah blah. Do you realise how much effort that is? Like
yeah. I mean, management, yeah, maybe. I guess I just haven't had that chance yet, and I'd rather focus on becoming the best specialist that I can be first off. I mean, I've got a few years, and I've got
how many years of working life have you got left to do? Right.
Well, hopefully I'll be retiring at like 50 odd or something. But yeah, at the minute, it's all about just learning as much and from as many people as possible, and speaking to as many people, and becoming the best specialist that I can possibly be. That's my, 3 to 5 years. That's my goal.
I mean, does it interest you then, obviously, like doing like public sessions in the future?
Yeah, massively. I'd love to do that. I'd love to. My friends always say you should be a motivational speaker because I'm really good at like advice and things. I'm like, not so much, but yeah, I would absolutely love to do presenting and things like that. It's never been something that's bothered me, which I think is, I should take that as sort of a talent of mine and be lucky that I'm like that. People always say that I talk too fast, so apologies if I've spoke really fast, but it's because I'm passionate. It's because my brain goes 100 miles an hour faster than what I'm speaking. But yeah, at university I always used to get down marks because I spoke too fast when I was presenting. But yeah, that'd be something that I'd be massively interested in, and create, having these tech events. And obviously before lockdown, I was doing events, but we have to have events sort of every month, and whether that were tech sessions, which should be a new topic that candidates could come to and learn, or on the client side, which was talking about strategy and how we can improve certain things and team collaboration and all that jazz. So I think I would have been, sort of a bit further on than what I am now in terms of my networking and things like that than what I am. But I think everyone's just passing the last year. So yeah, that'd be 100% something that I'd be interested in doing.
But I think obviously with COVID as well, obviously I think it's helped open doors to a lot more women doing public speaking, because of obviously takes away that scary element of it, of basically being in a room in front of how many different men, basically all within the market space.
Yeah.
I mean, getting rid of that that little stigmatism, because it's obviously great for a woman, because you can obviously sit here like we are now, just basically deliver a session. Obviously, you're very passionate about it, so therefore you should fly through it quite easily.
Yeah.
And from that, it's basically build up from there. I mean, yeah. I know when I've basically first doing public speaking, I just basically just used my personality to basically help me carry me through for the first couple of times that I did it, just being me. Yeah. And then after that, you kind of learn that more professionalism and taking that into it as well. I mean, the fact that it opened doors, well, when I was doing my user group, and then opened doors for me to go over to Amsterdam and start speaking there, and speaking in another country in my native language, which is obviously not theirs, with my accent, was obviously more of a, I have to be more clear in what I'm saying, more, professional, make sure I explain everything to, what it should be. And, I absolutely loved it. And I went out there twice and delivered 4 different sessions.
Yeah, amazing.
There's some really good courses out there for like presentation skills. I think Live and Learn do one that's really good. I've done it. It was like a 2-day one, but it wasn't like a PowerPoint presentation one. Like how to create the perfect PowerPoint presentation. It was like, how do you present yourself to like an audience in meeting rooms in front of people, and facial expressions, how to look at a crowd, where to engage your eyes and stuff like that. And like it's helped so much. And so I definitely recommend like something like that.
Yeah, I do need to look into that. That's when I did my first event, it was literally in front of like 30 men, obviously, because it was an infrastructure event. And this is also going back. There was one woman and she couldn't stay for the whole thing. She had to leave, and then it was literally me and like 30 odd men, which obviously it can be quite daunting. It's it's intimidating in a sense, but then I've got that mind where I think, well, I shouldn't be intimidated by that, and I don't get intimidated by it. So I mean, I was fine, but yeah, I can see why it would be intimidating, especially in tech events, going in as a woman, I think. But I mean, it might be scary for everyone being able to do it.
It's something that kind of Andrew's looking at as well at the moment. Is kind of a women in tech event, like a 2-dayer, and also we've also put in some applications for in-person events, so the South Coast. So hopefully, we can invite you along to speak with us on that, which would be really good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, one of the things, as John just mentioned, I want to basically try and build a proper community within the UK. Sorry, the rest of the world who might be listening to this podcast, to basically, start encouraging more women in tech, who then can basically then progress and actually then go on to, speaking at large conferences and events. And obviously, some of our previous guests are basically now part of that particular group, who basically said, they want to help mentor more women within that space. I'm going to try and get more like MVPs, whether that's male or female, into the group as well. Obviously, there are people that do public speaking, and obviously are good people to obviously start doing that whole mentoring and just kind of build it from there. I mean, also the long-term goal, as John said, is like doing a conference where hopefully my end goal is, majority of the attendees are women.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not going to lock it down and say there's no men attending that event, but I want that event to be primarily women, with primarily women speakers.
Yeah.
And obviously then basically, kind of build like a conveyor belt of obviously starting obviously at the very bottom and building the sessions through.
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of conversations, and I still think about this, and it's the argument of the women in tech events. What is the end goal? Are we raising awareness for men who need to promote and be advocates of women in tech? Or is it like what you said, giving women more confidence to be able to, be like myself and want to speak out and want to share the successes and believe that they can actually progress within IT? Because I think one of the, when people say, have you ever sort of had struggles within IT and as a woman and things like that, it were more just self-doubt more than anything. That, you've never been told that you can do it, and it's never been. And if you don't see it, then in your head, like with this role, I was thinking, I'm at, is this going to be the right step? But Pure were really good in the sense that of saying, we'll teach you everything. We're happy to, as long as you've got the personality, you've got the drive, everything else, we're happy to, support you along the way. So yeah, it's one of them. And a lot of the women in tech events that I did, men did come, and men were more than welcome to come. But are the men coming then the ones that are already advocates and that already know this? It's a fine line. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's something kind of I showed Andrew the other day was I've run a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu martial arts club, and we frequently get women message us and this asking about the club and lessons and stuff. But then it always gets to the sticking point of, do you do women-only classes? Because a lot of them are scared, obviously, or worried about going into a class full of 20 to 30 guys and doing martial arts. And so me and my wife were talking, driving back from the in-laws on Saturday, and it was like, we just said, fuck it, let's just do a women's-only class. Let's go for it. And we're on the 9th of August, if anyone's in Kent and in that area wants to come along, free little plug here.
Drive me.
But yeah, the goal for that is we're going to do a women's only class, but the goal for it is to make the attendees confident enough to then go into the more into the mixed group and into the other classes. It's not gonna, like, my goal for it's not to just be, and it's the same for this, and I'm using this as a comparison to. It's a goal to get people to get women confident in doing things and not have that imposter syndrome.
Yeah. To
then go to an event where it's widely more attended by both male and female, and to have the confidence to do that. That's kind of what I'm doing, like in my other life, as I call it, and I think it's something that we can really do really well within IT as well.
Yeah,
that's how the whole point of the conference, obviously, as just like John's event, is just basically giving that women that platform to basically start looking at their careers. Because I mean, I've met a lot of great technical women through the MVP market. They've delivered sessions for me at other events, and I know full well that I can literally stick them in a room and they can deliver the perfect session. And obviously, then if I then get a mentoree to basically look at that particular woman and go, okay, well, I want to be just like her. Then obviously that's that platform, that that elevator going from, well, this is where you're at, this is where I'd like you to get to, and obviously this person can help you get that way because she's been doing this for however long. She's been doing it at events all over the world, and there's no reason why you can't achieve that. I mean, when I started speaking, I had self-doubt. I didn't really think I'd be able to basically stand up in front of people, deliver these sessions. But then when I basically threw myself in the deep end, done obviously my small user groups, to then literally stand in front of a room full of 400 people, it's like, oh, just be you and just deliver that session. As long as you speak clearly, as long as you know the topic that you're talking about, you've got no issues whatsoever. And so I'm hoping that, our sessions for this online event is happening in August, and also the South Coast Summit get accepted, so we can basically probably invite yourself down and obviously be a part of the panel discussion that we want to do, because I want to basically have a women in tech discussion panel and get women that are basically already speaking there, as well as maybe some people that are just attending, onto a stage, and just basically talk about how we can promote women in tech more, and not just raise awareness within the male community that we need to support women in tech, but also the fact that women can achieve exactly what a man can achieve, especially in the market space. Because at the end of the day, as long as you know your topic area, then there's no reason why you can't stand in front of a room full of 1 to 1,000 or 6,000 people and just speak about a Microsoft topic. If you look at our previous guest, Anne Michaels, she's not technical, but she basically went out and learned certain elements of the technical area to talk about PowerShell for Microsoft Teams and stuff like that. So there's no reason why you can't achieve it.
Yeah.
So we're actually kind of at the end of the podcast now, in terms of time, and it's been fantastic having you on.
We can carry on talking, John. Come on.
We can keep on talking, but I have a meeting.
All day.
I have a meeting in 10 minutes, so I need to attend. So, but at the end of every podcast, Andrew delivers a interview question. I think it's now time.
Yeah, I don't actually have an interview question. This one
Is it the same question, or are they different ones?
I normally ask, like, if you wasn't doing IT, what would you do? But you've only been in the IT market for a smaller period of time, so can't really ask that question. I think that the biggest thing is obviously, you've mentioned obviously what the end goal is, maybe becoming a CEO, and you mentioned obviously the short-term goals. I mean,
Public speaking now.
We'll get you on there. I think for yourself, obviously, my word of advice, I'm not going to ask an interview question, is obviously to carry on doing what you're doing. I noticed you because of the work that you're doing on LinkedIn with all your videos and stuff like that. And then there's no reason why you can't achieve becoming a Microsoft MVP, or, just becoming a person within the community that's, well recognised. And I say, hats off to you. Just, keep going forward with it.
Yeah, really appreciate that. It's been really good. I've massively enjoyed it, and it's nice speaking to you both as well. Especially, with you both being advocates for women in tech, and I feel like we've got similar views on everything. So yeah, it's been really good. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
No problem. Thank you for listening to today's podcast with Sophie Dimelow and my co-host Andrew Moran. See you next time.
Cheers. See you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Microsoft Spotlight podcast. Please make sure you hit that like, share and subscribe button to help us promote our message. You can also follow us on Twitter at MSFT Spotlight, and we're also on LinkedIn, the Microsoft Spotlight podcast. And finally, we'd like to tell you a little bit about BitTitan and thank them for sponsoring this podcast.
Remote migrations start here. Let Migration Wiz do the work for you. It's fast, secure, and 100% SaaS, which means you can migrate at any time and from anywhere. Migrate mailboxes, documents, public folders, personal archives, or even Microsoft Teams with just a few clicks. No special training needed and no customer downtime. When the work matters, choose Migration Wiz.